If the history of multiplayer gaming has taught us anything, it's that the surest way to turn gamers against each other isn't to pit them head to head, but to make them work together. Griefing your mates in a team deathmatch can result in endless fun, but co-op games are designed to afford 2 or more players the ability to share a gaming experience without necessarily putting them in direct competition. They're meant to put you through a rigorous journey that cannot be survived unless everyone involved learns to work together. At least that's the idea, because in the cases of some games, that couldn't be further from how things turn out. Some co-op games prove to be so frustrating, or simply broken, that they in turn lead to the kind of intense gaming war zone that even the best combative multiplayer titles could never create. As a result, some co-op games cement friendships for life, but others just want to watch those friendships burn to a crisp. I'm Josh from WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 co-op video games that created more enemies than friends. Number 10. Borderlands makes loot more important than anything. Loot systems have long been the root cause of many gaming addictions, because there is something so satisfying about working your way through increasingly better equipment while holding out hope that a particularly elusive piece of swag will randomly drop your way. Which is why it's so very difficult to carry that style of gameplay into a cooperative environment like Borderlands. The game is at its best when you are able to assemble a fire team to purge the wastelands with, and at its worst when you and said team must somehow agree on how to split all the sweet loot that comes your way. Because even the best laid loot divvying plans can become undone when one player happens to grab the best item through what they claim to have been an accident. The only possible and mature recourse is to then steal everything they could ever love from that moment on. Obviously. Number 9. Final Fight makes it impossible not to punch each other. While many 2-player brawlers of the Final Fight era allowed players to accidentally hit each other, this game holds a special place of hatred in many gamers' hearts by not allowing friendly fire to be turned off at all. The result was a game with bigger than usual character sprites that became almost impossible to play without you accidentally smacking your sidekick at least once per level. Gamers wanting to avoid causing each other harm had to play in a cautious manner not typically associated with a series featuring a pro wrestler turned politician beating up youth gangs with a bike chain. Inevitably, this led to the classic co-op fighter situation wherein those accidental hits suddenly turned into an escalating series of unprovoked attacks on your friends. It's enough to make you wonder why Final Fight bothered to have enemies at all. Number 8. Left 4 Dead emphasizes going solo. Left 4 Dead is a truly great video game that not only perfectly recreates the action-packed zombie apocalypse dreams that everyone has, but also the experience of being the sole working participant on a school project. You might be lucky enough when queuing into Left 4 Dead to be randomly matched with other competent players, or even know a few skilled friends in your own life to buddy up with. But most of the time, an online Left 4 Dead run ends up with you being lumped exclusively with dead weight, having to constantly resurrect weaker players only to have them somehow miss every zombie in sight and shoot their teammates as soon as they stood up quickly became a staple of the experience, rather than the intense action players hoped for. Number 7. Portal 2 always makes one player feel stupid. The most frustrating aspect of Portal 2 is watching someone else play it after you've already beaten it. The game's so brilliant its obvious puzzle design often makes you feel pretty stupid for not seeing a solution earlier. It makes watching someone else go through the same brainstorming process akin to mental torture. Never is this process more painful though than in the game's legendary co-op mode. Unless you so happen to have the perfect match of 2 people who haven't played the game yet. A run through this mode can break even the strongest of relationships. The player who knows what they're doing just wants to turn the experience into a speedrun, while the noob hopes they'll shut up long enough to let them discover the game for themselves. While Valve no doubt had the intentions of creating a multiplayer puzzle game that allowed both players to share the joy of discovery, what they really created was a social experiment that proves intelligent design can be undone by a couple of primates who have absolutely no patience with each other. Number 6. Double Dragon makes you fight over your best friend's girl. Although most co-op games want players to live in harmony, others inspire conflict by design. Double Dragon's conflict, for example, was brilliantly arranged from the very start. Making your way to the end of the arcade version of the 2-player mode is no small feat. Yet, if you somehow survive the waves of goons and the machine gun-toting final boss, you and your companion can finally fulfill the goal of rescuing Billy's girlfriend, Marion. It's then, for reasons which are never quite explained, that Marion decides to celebrate the moment by having brothers Billy and Jimmy duke it out for her affections. With little warning, you and your buddy must now proceed to go mano a mano until there's only one Romeo left standing. While it's tempting to praise the developers for introducing the concept of love-ruining friendships early on to many gamers, most people blame them for still not being able to look that one friend who got the girl in the eye to this day. Number 5. Contra runs the gamut of annoying co-op features. In many ways, the frustrations of Contra's two-player modes were in no way unique to that one game. Instead, Contra is notable for being something of a Hall of Fame collection for 8-bit co-op annoyances. These included, but were not limited to, screen change deaths caused by uncooperative players, losing out on the best power-up when you needed it the most, and, of course, watching in vain as your no-good partner proceeds to go through lives because the only high score they can beat you on is how many hearts they can deplete. Suddenly, viewing your friends as the ultimate liability in your pursuit of success became as essential a part of the Contra experience as the Konami code, and should never, under any circumstances, be booted up at a party. Number 4. Splinter Cell doubles the frustrations of stealth gameplay. Stealth games, by their very nature, are meant to be challenging and often frustrating experiences. There's a trial and error nature inherent to the concept that makes even the best games in the genre feel like an exercise in zen-like patience. What's amazing though is how much that zen goes right out the window when your companion runs straight into a guard's line of sight. While the Splinter Cell series has always sported a well-designed co-op mode, it never fails to produce moments where a slip of the thumb or a moment of wavering patience manages to undo a complex espionage mission in an instant. Number 3. Trying to organise Friday the 13th's camp counselors. There are few horror franchises as iconic as Friday the 13th, so when it was announced that the game was being transformed into an asymmetrical multiplayer experience where a group of survivors have to elude and escape from a superpowered Jason Voorhees, fans lost their minds. Unfortunately, while the game does have the potential to let a well-coordinated team live out the slasher movie contingency plans they've been concocting for years, most matches turn into a complete and utter show if you get lumped with brainless survivors. Trying to sneakily keep out the iconic villain's line of sight while a teammate sprints around wildly around you can instantly ruin a match. But at least you can take some joy in seeing them brutally ripped apart once Jason is alerted to their presence. Number 2. New Super Mario Bros. Wii U grants players unlimited troll powers. One day, a Nintendo game designer had a brilliant idea: incorporate the Wii U's tablet controller into a Mario game and let players use it to manipulate the in-game environment and help out their fellow players. They surely thought, in their endearing naivety, that this would lead to a new era of creative cooperation for the Mario franchise. Instead, it proved just how little humanity we have for our so-called friends. Because players everywhere suddenly realized that the ability to place platforms on a level could not only be used to aid their friends, but hinder them from ever making progress. Soon, even the most impressive of Mario runs were undone by gamers placing a lone platform right at the apex of a jump and manically laughing while their friend tumbled down a precarious pit. Number 1. Every single thing about Battletoads. There have been hundreds of video games throughout history to feature a cooperative mode, but none have been less justified than the one found in Battletoads, which was impossible to beat with 2 players. That's not even an exaggeration. The game actually featured a glitch which disabled the second player's controller upon reaching the 11th level. While such a destructive glitch in a major release would usually be an infamous part of gaming history, this particular shortcoming wasn't actually known to many NES gamers, as few of them ever made it anywhere close to the breaking point. With its shared life system and the ability to hit your partner easier than you could any of the game's enemies, Battletoads' 2-player mode was made purely to satisfy the developer's own masochistic tendencies. Simply put, there's no friendship which can survive a tour of duty through Battletoads' co-op mode, with even the strongest of bonds being shattered by the time you get to the nearly impossible speeder bike stage. So that's our list. Let me know in the comments if there are any multiplayer games more frustrating than the ones I've mentioned here. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and head over to whatculture.com for even more lists like this every single day.
Hey guys, thanks for making it to the end of the video. Aren't you a star? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe below. And also, there's probably more content floating up above my head, so why not check that out as well? Could be a laugh. Probably. 6 out of 10.